So I just raced the Cherry Blossom 10-mile race in Washington, D.C. It was this year's US 10-mile championships. So in this video, what I'm going to do is analyze my race and just do a play-by-play analysis mile by mile, tell you how I was feeling before the race, during, and after. So like I earlier mentioned, going into this race, my goal was to try to break 50:27, which was my previous 10-mile PR. My second goal was to break 49:45. Then my third goal was to break 49:20. So I thought that even my A goal was pretty achievable on the day. The official time I ended up running was 50:02, which met my C goal. So I would probably give the race overall a B minus. And I tried as hard as I possibly could, and I'm not too disappointed with the outcome, but I definitely think that on a better day I could have run maybe a little bit faster. So we'll get into it. I got into Washington, D.C. Thursday around 5 p.m., hung out in my hotel room. Then on Friday, hung out in my hotel room all day. Didn't really do much, and I was feeling quite nervous for this race. I think I was maybe feeling a little bit nervous because there was like no one around. My dad was supposed to come to the race, but unfortunately he couldn't come, so I hate being alone for these things. So I think in the future, I just gotta work a little bit on actually doing some fun stuff the day before the race. So maybe in the future, I'm gonna try to just be a little bit more relaxed the day before the race and not feel like I have to just lay in a hotel bed. Saturday morning, I woke up at around 4 a.m. Felt decent, nothing crazy, not too good, not too bad. Had a little bit of trouble eating my pancakes in that morning, so I ended up having a couple gels instead of eating too much on the morning of, just because I needed to make sure I still ate food. So I got my food in, and my friend Kenny came to film the race as well. So finally, we are here at the actual race. So I started in the seated section, not the elite field, but really it makes literally no difference because we started at the exact same time. So I was like, whatever, if I have to have a different color bib, that's not gonna change how this goes. The race goes off, and immediately I was telling myself, all right, let me just stay under control through this first mile and try to run around 4:50. The first mile was pretty flat and downhill. I ended up running into some other runners out there who were kind of like, hey, what do you guys want to run? And I was like 4:55 to 5 flat pace. So kind of linked up with a couple people. Yeah, I didn't feel great. I felt like a little bit like uneasy after the first mile, but I came through in around 4:52. Mile 2, you go across a bridge and then you come back across that bridge. So that was probably the hardest mile of the race and the slowest mile of the race. I ended up running a 4:59 on my watch for mile 2 though, so it was still pretty fine. But I think that this part of the race is where I made a crucial mistake. I decided to not go with a group in front of me on mile 2 to 3. Instead, I just stayed with the group I was in and ended up leading that group. I didn't feel great on the day, and I was scared of like blowing up. So I didn't end up pushing hard to like link to a different group up ahead. So we kind of lost that group. Guys, I am super pumped about today's sponsor, David, and their amazing new protein bars. The mission of David is to make nutrition simple and effective. David crafts delicious protein bars, and its nutrition standards are evidence-based. The bars have 28 grams of protein and only 150 calories, which is the highest protein to calorie ratio on the market. Also, the bars have 0 sugar in them. All of the flavors are absolute bangers, but to give you the rundown, they have chocolate chip cookie dough, cake batter, salted peanut butter, fudge brownie, blueberry pie, and peanut butter chocolate chunk. Also, if you are gluten-free, there's nothing to worry about as the protein bars have 0 gluten in them. As I do really high mileage doing these half marathons, these 10-mile races, and these other long races on the road, it's super important for me to get in a lot of protein. And that's why David is amazing for me, is I can just munch on these easily, and I know that they're really healthy for me and only going to help me recover. So get yours before they sell out. Click the link below or find them at davidprotein.com. Mile 3 on my watch, I had 5 minutes exactly. So again, a little bit slow. Someone mentioned to me like, hey, how you feeling right now, man? And I was like, I do not feel good right now on mile 3. So in my head, I was already like, ooh, this is gonna be a tough day. So I was really just trying to focus up on just staying relaxed, but also like pushing. After mile 3, things started to settle a little bit more. We ended up running a 5:01 for mile 4 on my watch. So I was really clicking in 5-minute miles. which is great. Like, I was executing my plan just on the slower end of it. Again, at this point, I was really at the front of my group and just trying hard to pick the pace up to like low 450s, which I just could not do. I remember at like mile 4 trying to push, and like I was like, man, I really can't get this to be like a 455, even though I was trying hard to make it be a 455, but it wasn't. Came through mile 5. On my watch, I had a 459. Everyone was still together. I was just at the front of it, grinding away. But once we got to 5 miles in, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be able to finish this race up fine. And that's just where the experience of having done a half marathon comes in. It's just super nice to actually have competed in one, because now I don't, you know, a 10-mile race isn't crazy long for me anymore. So after 5 miles, I was like, okay, I can definitely pick it up here. So that's just what I did. On mile 6, I picked it up to a 457 and started to get a slight gap on the group I was in. So then mile 7, I continued to push on forward, and this was actually my fastest mile for a while. Mile 7, I ended up running a 4:53. There's another runner, actually shout out to Charlie. He was in this race as well, and he passed me during mile 7, so he started to push even harder than I did. And later on after the race, he was saying that he was trying to make a big move there as well, and we both ended up not being able to cover it super well. So anyway, mile 7, like I said, was a 4:53. So I really did start to pick it up, but I did get a bad cramp at mile 7, like to where I was like a little bit concerned that I was gonna have to slow down. Luckily, I was able to fight through this cramp to where it didn't really get worse. I just kind of focused on my breathing, and it kind of just didn't get any worse throughout the race. So that was good to know that it didn't like destroy my race. So I continued to pass people, as you guys can see, through mile 8. And mile 8, I ended up going 4:55 on my watch. So really miles 6, 7, and 8, 4:57, 4:53, and 4:55, they were all great miles. So, you know, I was very happy about just like how I executed that. And then once we got to mile 9, like after mile 8, it got really difficult again, to where, I don't know, I just felt like I was in no man's land, and slash just having a hard time like just being able to pick it up. So mile 9 was only a 5:01. We also did have a slight headwind for mile 9, so maybe that's what slowed it down a little bit. And after that, I was like, okay, I know I'm gonna finish this thing up strong. 2 guys went by me, and basically for all of the last mile, I was like, all right, I think that I should for sure be able to outkick these guys. So I'm just gonna kind of like compete at this point. The last mile did have like 20 feet of elevation gain. I ended up running my mile 10 in 4:57, which is like pretty fast considering the elevation of 20 feet. So I felt like mile 10 went well too. And then I was able to kick by those 2 guys and finish with officially 50:02. Now you guys are probably kind of confused though, because I just listed out all my splits, and my slowest split was only 2 5:01s. Everything else was 5 flat or faster. So officially on my watch, I ran 10 miles in 49:32, which is definitely accurate for a 10-mile run. For official races like 10-mile US championships, they measure the course at the this tightest possible tangent. So I wasn't running the tightest tangent the whole race. So maybe in the future, I should try to run even tighter, like on the right side of the road more, or the left side of the road, whichever is the tightest tangent, to run like an exact 10 miles on the dot. But my watch was completely accurate. So I guess technically I ran 49:30, but I would never count that, because it's the same as to say, like, you know, runners who are running all out 1,500 meters on the track, they end up running a little bit of it in lane 2 or lane 3 if they're going around people. So they always end up running like 1,510 meters, but they're not gonna say, well, that actually means that my 1,500 time was this. You know what I'm saying? Or the same with a 5K or anything. It's just like the tightest possible tangents are what gets you that distance. I guess I ran 49:32, but like I said, it doesn't really actually count. But anyway, yeah, I finished the race. I didn't feel too like destroyed after it, but you know, I definitely finished and I was like, oof, that was like hard. I really did expect myself to like be able to hopefully breeze under 50 minutes, but that wasn't the case out there. My first big takeaway was it was good to run a hard effort and it not be like a perfect day. My second big takeaway is that I think in future road races, I need to be really willing to hurt earlier on, and I just am a little bit hesitant still. So I know that I'm a little scared to like go for it. I'm really scared of blowing up in one of these races, so I need to be better at not holding myself back. And I kind of went into this 10-mile race with the mentality like, oh, I'm gonna cruise for 10 miles because the pace isn't really fast compared to like shorter distance paces. But I need to change that mentality and go into these longer races being like, I'm gonna hurt a lot early on and I have to be ready to run fast. That's my biggest like takeaway from this race. Racing is the best thing in the world to just get automatic lessons about yourself as a person and life lessons and just like help you for future races. So I found that just racing more, especially as I'm doing more serious races, it just allows me to know more about myself and like just learn from my like failures and stuff like that. And not to say this was a very successful race, I was very happy with it. And it's just like a good way to know like not every race is going to be like sunshines and rainbows. So this one was a battle, but I gutted it out. I'm definitely excited for my next race, which I'll tell you guys about in my next video. So with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed my race analysis of the Cherry Blossom 10 miler, and yeah, we'll see you soon.